Okay, so let's talk about writing equations of linear functions. We're going to kind of combine section 4-2 and 4-3 into one section. I don't particularly like the way they explain it in 4-2, and 4-3 is okay, but I'm just going to combine them into one video here so we have this to go, so we can make it work for us. So we're writing equations of linear functions. We talked already how we're going to have several different forms of a linear function. We started in chapter 3 with standard form. Remember, that was ax plus by equals c. That was good for intercepts, graphing things quickly, things like that. But when we don't have that information, we can use a couple of other forms to start with and then go from there. So what we're going to look at today, two forms. We'll look at slope-intercept form, which you saw in section 1. Slope-intercept form is really easy to graph things from. You're given a slope and a y-intercept in the problem. We started by plotting the y-intercept and then using the slope to go from point to point. And that made that really easy. So we're going to use that a little bit. That's where we're going to end up, but we want to start. Probably point slope form makes it a little easier. If I look at what you need in both of them, for slope-intercept form, you need a slope and you need a y-intercept. If you don't have those things, you can't write it in slope form yet. Take some work first. But you can't go directly to that form. With point slope form, it's a little easier to work with. And remember, we talked about this. The name tells you what you need. Point slope. I need a point and a slope. Well, you need a point and a slope given, or if you're given 2 points, we can use this form as well, because I can find the slope from my 2 points, and then I can use that with one of those points to find my equation for a line. So here's the things you need to know right now. Y equals mx plus b. Actually, let me get rid of that box. What's in that, what we need, m, as always, is your slope. We've seen that before. And b, that is your y-intercept. That's the y value of the point where your graph crosses the y-axis. So that's slope-intercept form. 2 pieces of information you need there, a slope and a y-intercept. Y and x, those stay put. Those don't change. Those are y and x. So I'll make that note as well. So x and y don't change. Those stay as y and x. That gives us what our line is. That gives us slope. Over here in point slope form, it really is just a rearrangement of our slope formula. If you see y minus y1, that should look familiar. X minus x1, that looks familiar. M, that's our slope. So when we're looking at this guy, we have the same idea. M is still your slope. That doesn't change. Y and x stay the same, just like they do over here, but the things we need are y1 and x1. These are from the ordered pairs, from given points. So those are the ones that are going to change. And again, negatives, watch your signs, be careful. I'll even put this here, watch your signs. Okay, make sure that you're paying attention to what's going on. Okay, that's where you guys mess up the most, is those signs. So be careful of that. All right. So what I really want us to do is I want us to start with point slope form and work to slope-intercept form. So we're going to start here and go this way. That's what we want to do. It's just an easier process. There's less work you have to do, and it's going to make life a whole lot easier for us. Okay, so let's come down to an example right here. We're going to write the equation that goes through this point and has a slope of this value, and then we're going to graph it. All right. Well, again, look at what we're given. We're given a point and we're given a slope. So let's use point slope form. Quick reminder, we just saw it 2 seconds ago. But remember, point slope form is y minus y1 equaling m times x minus x1. We're just going to plug those values in. So where do those come from? Well, our ordered pair gives us x1 and gives us y1. And, well, this is m. So we're just going to plug those values right in. Make it easy for us. Okay? So use parentheses, y minus y1, which is -6, will equal my slope, 1/2, times x minus x1, which is 4. Okay. Now a couple things here. Remember, these are different values. This is x, this is x1, so I can't combine those. We're going to have to we're actually plugging numbers in so we can get there. So let's clean this up a little bit. Remember, minus -6, watch the signs again, becomes y plus 6. That's great. Will equal 1/2 times x minus 4. This becomes -4. All right, well, we're in point slope form. This is point slope form right here, so we'll call it point slope. Okay, but what I want to do is move towards slope-intercept form. In order to do that, I need to get this to be equal to y. And it's really a simple process. It comes down to two steps. Distributing the 1/2 in, that's the first one, and then moving the 6 over. So we have y plus 6 will equal, if I distribute 1/2 in there, 1/2 x, and then 1 times 4 is 4, divided by 2 is 2. Okay, so I have that. And I'm going to come down here and finish. I'm going to subtract 6 from both sides. So that leaves me with y equals 1/2 x and then minus 8. That is my slope-intercept form. Okay. Now I have that, I can graph this because I know my y-intercept is -8. My slope is 1 over 2. So I can go to my graph and plot those points and graph it. So -8 is where I start. Remember, you start with our y-intercept. So down 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. That's right there. Okay, start with your y-intercept. We've talked about that with story problems. With just in section 1, we talked about where your y-intercept goes. But that's where we're going. We always start with our y-intercept. Now your slope is 1/2. Remember, that is rise over run. Okay, well, I'm going to rise 1, up 1, positive, and run 2. So go up 1, over 2, put a point. Up 1, over 2, put a point. Now, conversely, I can go the opposite way. I can go down 1 and left 2. Down 1 and left 2. Okay, and you can see how that forms a line. So I can go ahead and grab my little line here, and I can go up a couple more. Always go well beyond your points. Okay, draw a line through, and make sure you put arrows in the end. So that's the graph of this stuff. If I look, I can check, is the point 4, -6 on my line? If I go over 1, 2, 3, 4, down 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. That's great. So I know I have the right line there. Okay. So that's an example of you're given a point and a slope. Well, what happens if you're given just 2 points? Okay. Remember, we said in order to write a line, I need at least 1 point and a slope. Well, I have the point part. I have 2 of them to choose from. We'll talk about that in a second. But I still need a slope. So first thing I'm going to do is find my slope. Okay, well, that's just your slope formula. 8 minus -7 all over 10 minus 5. Okay. Again, watch your signs. Be careful of those. Make sure we're paying attention to them. 8 minus -7, that becomes 8 plus 7. Okay, that's 15. Okay. 10 minus 5 is 5. Well, if I reduce that, that's 3 over 1. That's equal to m. I now have my slope. Now, our previous example, we had a slope and 1 point, and we used the point and plugged it in with my slope. This time I have a slope now, but 2 points. And the question is, which one do you want to use? Well, it really doesn't matter. We can choose whichever one we want. My advice to you, if you have stuff that's all positive, because you don't have to worry about signs, choose that. So I'm going to choose 10 and 8. Now notice I'm not choosing the 10 from this one and the 7 from this one. I have to stick with 1 point in both of those values. All right, so again, remember, it's point slope form. Y minus y1 equals m times x minus x1. Plug those values in. Here's x1, here's y1. Let's plug them in. So y minus 8 will equal my slope, 3 over 1, times x minus x1, which is 10. Okay? So I have this. Okay. Y minus 8 will equal, we have to distribute that 3 in. It'll give me 3 over 1x, and then minus 30. Okay, and then I'll add 8 to both sides to clean things up. Notice I'm adding it to 30 because it's a non-variable. I don't want to confuse that with my variable, so y will equal 3x minus 22. Again, slope-intercept form. Okay, this is point-slope form up here. This is slope-intercept form here. Here I'd start with my y-intercept, which is -22, and then my slope would be 3 over 1. Remember, rise over run. So I'm going to go up 3, and I'm going to go right 1. Okay, and then we're going to start at -22. So there's your general overview of how we're looking at that. Starting value, how you're moving. Again, if we come back, and one thing I want to hit on again as we go to slope intercept for why this is nice. Okay, if we're dealing with story problems and we want to write an equation, points or slope intercept form is the way to go. Your y-intercept is what you're starting with. Okay, what am I starting with? Your slope is how you're changing. Okay, so for example, if I start with $50 and I save $3 a month, I'm 3 here as my change, starting with my money there and going up. So as we look at that, that's kind of how we're going to apply things. That's a general overview of slope intercept form and point slope form, how we use them, how we get to where we need to go, how we graph them, and we'll use those in class a little bit to do some more application stuff. So that's your video for 4.2 and 4.3. We'll talk a little more in class, and we'll go from there.